Good morning. Today, I'll walk you through a focused evaluation of Nike's FY24 Sustainability Data Report, highlighting what's working, what's missing, and what actions Nike's CSO should prioritize. Nike's most material issues center on climate, supply chain labor, materials and chemistry, water, and circularity. Scope 3 dominates Nike's footprint, over 8 million tons. So, decarbonizing the supply chain is essential. Tier 1 factories perform well, but Tier 2 has major gaps. Lower compliance, 69 red rated factories, and 5 zero tolerance incidents. Materials and chemistry continue to drive a large share of environmental impact, and water risk is concentrated in dyeing and finishing. Circularity is strong operationally with high waste diversion, but lacks consumer facing debt. These issues matter because they drive brand risk, regulatory exposure, supply resilience, and Nike's innovation agenda. Nike uses the People Planet Play framework plus GRI, SASB, and GHG protocol, but does not have a formal materiality assessment, which limits transparency and stakeholder alignment. Compared to peers, Nike leads in materials innovation and renewable energy for own facilities. But Adidas, Puma, and Lululemon are ahead in transparency, double materiality, living wage disclosure, supplier renewable energy, and circularity. This leaves Nike with gaps in Scope 3 performance, Tier 2 labor risk, supplier energy transition, and materiality disclosure. Nike targets both internal and external stakeholders, as you can see here. Each ESG issue connects to specific programs and internal teams, from the RE100 and SBTI for climate to ZHHC and Better Work for Labor, to materials innovation, water restoration partnerships, and circularity programs. This demonstrates operational alignment, but again, what's missing is a cohesive narrative tying these together under formal materiality logic. Nike's governance structure is robust. The CRS and G committee oversees ESG at the board level, and the CFO integrates risk through GA and RM. But unlike peers, Nike's FY24 report does not include a public CSO letter. The absence reduces narrative leadership visibility. Key stakeholder needs aren't fully met. There is no disclosed stakeholder engagement process, no materiality matrix, limited employee engagement reporting, almost no consumer input, and a lack of suppliers' perspectives. Governance disclosures also omit ESG linked pay and TCFD analysis. These gaps create real risk, misaligned expectations, weaker credibility relative to peers, and limited visibility into human right outcomes. But they also offer opportunities, especially publishing a materiality assessment, expanding stakeholder input, and improving supplier level storytelling and energy programs. Nike aligns with major global frameworks such as GRI, SASB, GHG Protocol, SBTI. The data is verified by PwC, but most of Scope 3, which is 99% of emissions, remain unaudited. Nike leans heavily on global standards. Nike also has an incorporated TCFD or European CSRD or ESRS, where peers are moving faster. Sustainability clearly supports Nike's strategy through innovation, risk management, and supply chain transformation. But the report focuses heavily on FY24, FY25, and provides very little long-term direction. There is no 2030 plan, no long-term social commitments, and limited circularity vision. Nike does acknowledge challenges, especially around Scope 3, data estimation, and supplier audits. However, these disclosures are factual rather than reflective. There is no narrative explaining causes or lessons learned. Nike is transparent in its data, especially audits, methodology, and assurance. But several areas feel incomplete, particularly Scope 3 strategy, long term social impact, circularity depth, and supplier perspectives. Stakeholders would benefit from a clearer Scope 3 roadmap, supplier renewable energy plans, human rights progress, TCFD climate risk analysis, and a more holistic circular strategy. Some final recommendations to close these gaps and match industry leaders. Nike should focus on 5 actions. First, they should publish a full double materiality assessment, which aligns with Adidas and Puma. Second, they should expand assurance to major Scope 3 categories where Nike is most exposed. Third, they should develop a 2030 plus sustainability roadmap, not just FY25 targets. Fourth, they should increase transparency on human rights and worker well being. Lastly, they should create a supplier renewable energy transition plan, the biggest lever for Scope 3. Lastly, I've given some references because this presentation is grounded in Nike's FY24 sustainability data report and peer disclosures from Adidas, Puma, and Lululemon. Thank you.